Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Top 10 players for this Tennessee program heading into 2024. And for those who might be a little bit new to the channel, Dill might be the highest player, the highest person across the country on this Tennessee team heading into 2024. We're going to give him the opportunity to really sell us on this program heading into the fall. Very excited to get into it. Before we do it, as always, just want to give a massive shout out to you guys. The amount of support y'all have shown as we've taken deep dives into all of these programs during the summer months. It absolutely means the world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section, some players that we might be sleeping on that should be in this top 10 list. We always learn a ton from you guys in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And Dill, let's start with some players that we probably just haven't seen enough of to put in our top 10 list, but guys that we think certainly can be top 10 players for this Tennessee offense. They're on the screen. I'll kind of give you the tee box here. Which name do you want to talk about first?
So Lance Heard, to me, I think he'll probably end up being the best offensive lineman on this Tennessee team. I think you saw arguably enough at LSU in his spot duty in the reserve role. You obviously knew he was a hammer coming out of high school. So again, all the talent in the world, fully believe he's going to be up there with anyone on this Tennessee program. But obviously the guy, it's Nico, and it's about him allowing Josh Heupel to run the offense the way he wants to run it, where they're a lot more consistent, I should probably say, than what Joe Milton was giving them. And that's where I think Nico can really shine, because you look, this Tennessee team, they like to spread the ball out, throw to everywhere on the field. Nico has the arm strength to do it. I think he's got the accuracy and the consistency and the steadiness that you wanted to see from Joe Milton that you just didn't see. And to me, honestly, this team is so ready-made around him. I just think he needs to be able to play within that Josh Heupel offense, make a couple plays with his legs. That's certainly not going to hurt, and allow this team to kind of reach its full potential that they really couldn't last year with Joe Milton.
Yeah, Joe, and I 100% agree. Now, I think a lot of the takes that you hear is Nico's a really good quarterback. I'm certainly not arguing about that. But I think what's more important in this conversation is the fit that Nico has in this Josh Heupel offense. Him coming out of high school, when he committed to Tennessee, I looked at that and said, that's the best offense that Nico could have went to coming out of high school. And you said it, he has the arm talent to attack all blades of grass, but more importantly, the consistency and accuracy. You look back at what made Hendon Hooker run this Tennessee offense so well. I mean, he was always accurate. The ball placement was phenomenal, and he was on time with his throws. You look at Joe Milton, late accuracy was a massive problem. I think Nico kind of brings that to this Tennessee offense, and I think you're going to see potentially a massive step in quarterback play from this Tennessee program. Let's get into our top 10 players, and let's start with, but again, one of the reasons as I was doing my research into this Tennessee program, I started buying a little bit of stock into Tennessee. They return a lot of guys on the offensive line. You look at this unit and say, not only is it talented, but it has a lot of experience and experience in playing together. And that's something that you don't see a lot of Power 5 programs have with the transfer portal era. You look at a guy like John Campbell, played really good football last year, coming back for 2024. I mean, a lot of Power 5 programs are looking for starting caliber tackles. Tennessee certainly has one with a guy like John Campbell.
And this is a team that, despite obviously some subpar quarterback play, could always run the football. Obviously, if they allow this offense to open up a little bit, test teams on the boundary like Josh Heupel likes to do anyway, and allow some lighter boxes. I mean, you see guys like John Campbell, Spraggins, Lance Heard coming in, Cooper Mays. I mean, this is a loaded group up front. John Campbell, there's not many tackles in the country who can move guys off the ball the way he does it. So whether he's playing on the right, whether he's playing on the left, however they juggle it, he's going to be just fine. Obviously, no liability in the pass pro either. So again, this offensive line, John Campbell, Spraggins, these other guys, I think they're going to be dominant this year. That's a big part of why I'm surprised.
John Campbell's so nasty. And you look at, you kind of mentioned it, Tennessee likes to spread teams out, get light boxes. When you can get kind of numbers that are favorable, hat on hat, so to speak, that's the best fit for John Campbell. You're just telling him, hey, we got to move some big bodies off the line of scrimmage, let our running backs get downhill. That's exactly what John Campbell has been put on this earth to be doing. Going to number 9, and Dill, another reason why you're kind of just buying some stock in this Tennessee program. When Josh Heupel took over this team, it was, we are going to try to just score more points than the opposing teams. You look at the last couple of years steadily getting it done on the recruiting trail, getting some of these defenders coached up and developed. You look at this Tennessee defense heading into 2024, legit difference makers in the front seven specifically for this Vols defense.
And I think you love the way it's constructed. Like, obviously, we know there's great players, Amari Thomas, James Pierce. Like, there's a lot of really talented players, but I also think guys who complement each other. Omari Thomas and Omar Norman Lott are not the same player. When you look at Omar Norman Lott, he adds a lot more to that pass rush, that ability to rack some sacks up, that ability to get in the backfield and make big plays. Again, is he as consistent as Omari Thomas against the run and being able to be physical and allow linebackers to play free? Probably not. But again, he gives them what he gives them. Omari Thomas gives him what he gives him. In his ability to get after the pass rusher and be very disruptive, it's really, really big. Those are big plays that he makes for this Tennessee team.
12% pass rush win rate from the inside. And there might be some fans that are unfamiliar with that number. That's phenomenal for an interior defensive lineman. Going to our number 8 player, going to the transfer portal, talking about a Tulane wide receiver and Chris Braswell coming over, I should say. Dill, I know you've dove into Chris Braswell pretty good. Does he maybe bring to Tennessee what they were hoping Dante Thornton would bring to Tennessee last year?
I mean, I think he certainly gives them that second weapon who can really play that pure wide receiver position at a really high level that I just didn't think they had. When you saw Brew McCoy go down, it seemed like the wheels in that passing attack really fell off. So obviously you're going to get Brew McCoy back. He's certainly going to be the number one guy, I think, for this Tennessee team. But I think with Braswell, you get another guy who is really, really polished, obviously runs a lot of really good routes. You look, 37 first down catches. I mean, that's a big number. That's a guy who's ultra dependable. In the spring game, I think you saw kind of the green shoots of a really good relationship between him and obviously Nico. So that to me is what I'm looking for. Just give them that second option who plays really high level.
And what I think he brings even more than a guy like Dante Thornton was super one-dimensional. He was a vertical guy, and if he wasn't working vertical, he wasn't creating separation. Chris Braswell, he can create separation vertically, 16.2 yards per catch. You know the guy can work downfield, but then you noted it. 37 first down catches. He's a possession wide receiver too. He's not just a one-trick pony like kind of Dante Thornton was for that Tennessee offense. I think this was a sneaky, really good addition for Tennessee. Going to number 7, a guy that I am been a massive fan of, Dylan Sampson. I think he's going to kind of take over this Tennessee backfield. You got a couple really talented running backs, and I think a lot of people look on the surface and say, all right, you're losing some really talented running backs to the NFL. Maybe this rushing attack takes a step back. Tennessee fans are sitting there saying, no, we got some young studs who are going to be just fine in that running back room. Doing some research on Dylan Sampson. I mean, this was a kid that ran a 10.5 in the 100-meter dash coming out of high school. You know, as a running back in Tennessee, you're going to get opportunities to be in space and use your athleticism. What better running back to kind of take over the reins than this speedster and Dylan Sampson, who also runs the ball extremely physical as well for his size.
And I think the big thing is a guy who's super familiar in this offense, because you kind of look, it's a unique rushing attack that they put out. You really need to be able to be comfortable when you're supposed to bounce it, when you got to take it up the middle. And that's kind of something you've seen when Tennessee rips those big plays off. It's their running back's ability to have really, really good vision. I was really impressed with what he did against Iowa in that bowl game. And that, again, that ability to rip big plays from that running back spot, it's been huge for Tennessee. It's obviously going to continue to be a big part of their offense with Sampson. So I love that they got a guy slotting in that you have full confidence is going to
having a running back that can rip off chunk plays for Tennessee might be one of the most important traits that you can have. Because you look at Tennessee, what they want to do, they want to get that first down, and then we are off to the races just running 100 yards down the field on you. But you got to have a running back that can manufacture some of those chunk plays, get that offense in gear. Dylan Sampson certainly can be that guy. Going to our number 6 player, let's talk about a guy that we didn't really get to see in 2023, but a guy that we were extraordinarily high on. And quite frankly, Dill, you sent me this list, and I was going to push back at him being number 6. Dive into the BYU background. He played phenomenal football for them. Keenan Pili missed every single game besides the first game for Tennessee. What's he bring this Tennessee defense here?
I mean, that Virginia game, it certainly whetted my appetite for more Keenan Pili. I mean, just the way, how fast he plays, how good he is at getting to the ball. I mean, you just see it. The 196 tackles in his career, just ultra productive. I'm really excited to see what this Tennessee linebacker room shakes out as. I thought it was like a solid unit last year. I really like Beasley. I think there was probably another level you could get from Herring just being a little bit more athletic and being able to
Yes.
play a little bit more effectively in space. I'm really interested to see what this number 2 linebacker battle shakes out because I think you got 3 guys who I think you'd be pretty comfortable with Spillman, T-Lander, and
Arian
Aaron.
Carter is probably my choice. And I know you like Edwin Spillman as a true freshman. I think Arian Carter, again, another kid that I love coming out of high school. I think he could.
I think you get a very athletic linebacker room, suffice to say, where you're
And yeah,
guys who can run and play and make a lot of tackles at a level I didn't think you quite had last
we
year.
can definitely agree on this linebacker being ultra athletic flying around the football field. Going to our top 5, your guy, Amari Thomas, a guy that you've been banging the table for a very long time. And you kind of touched on him when we were talking about Norman Lott. This is a guy that is not going to stuff the stat sheet, if you will, right? 35 tackles, 4.5 TFLs, 1 sack. But what he does in terms of the dirty work is so important to this Tennessee team. You talk about we just talked about those athletic linebackers. We got to keep them clean. We got to allow them to get downhill. A guy like Amari Thomas, he is going to allow this Tennessee defense to do that.
And for that size, I think he moves really well. I do think he gets off blocks, makes a fair amount of plays. Again, not that elite pass rusher, but pretty good at pushing pockets and allowing guys like on the edge like James Pierce to do a little bit of work. So again, a guy who has been such a big part of this Tennessee defense for a couple of years now. I love that he's coming back, being that physical force in the middle that, again, I think every team at the end of the day needs.
100%. Going to our top 4, let's talk about another guy that, and now you left Cooper Mays out of this top 10 list. I thought that was a travesty.
Decision.
Then, when you start getting into this top 10 list, it's hard to find a spot for a guy like Cooper Mays. Javante Spraggins, though, talk about getting that run game going. This dude is about as nasty as it gets. And again, you're talking about an offensive lineman that has started the last 3 seasons at right guard, over 2,500 snaps. There are so many Power 5 programs that Tennessee is going to be going up against in the SEC that are having newcomers in on the offensive line. This Tennessee offensive line returning a ton of production and some nasty guys at that with a guy like Javante Spraggins.
And you said it, an offensive line that I think will be about as good as any in the country. I mean, tough, physical guy, doesn't have any issue in the pass, obviously, and just a ton of experience. I don't know what else to add about him. It's just a guy who, again, has been moving guys off the ball for a handful of years now and really knows this Tennessee offense.
Let's talk about a massive transfer portal addition. And another one that I feel like Tennessee did not need to go to the transfer portal and add 20 players because I think Josh Heupel knows this roster is going to be pretty damn good heading into 2024. They did lose some guys in the secondary. They kind of filled one of those holes with what I thought was one of the more impressive true freshmen last year. Doesn't get talked enough about because he's playing his college football in Corvallis up at Oregon State. Jermon McCoy coming over, extremely impressive as a true freshman. Started the last 2 games from Oregon State, but played in all 12. This was a guy that just became impossible for Oregon State to keep off the field, even though they had a pretty damn good secondary up there in Corvallis. Coming to Tennessee, if this kid builds on what he did as a true freshman, you could be looking at an all-conference cornerback in Jermon McCoy.
And he's got the makings of that number 1 corner that
Agreed.
I just don't think Tennessee's had. Like, you haven't had that guy who you can look at as like a day 1, day 2 kind of pick at that secondary spot. And frankly, that is the one question you probably have for this Tennessee team. And they lost a lot of that secondary. I don't know that that's a horrible thing. I don't think they played particularly good last year compared to every other unit on this football team. So, again, you're bringing in a couple new guys. I think you have that now with Jermon McCoy, that 1 corner who you don't need to worry about. You don't need to, like, scheme around him. You can ask him to do whatever you want, play zone, play man. He can do it all. I think that was huge to add that guy. And then again, it's going to be about those young guys they've recruited to kind of fill in the cracks. But I think they needed to change that secondary over either way.
And they certainly did that with my guy, Jermon McCoy. Number 2, Brew McCoy. You saw what he meant to this Tennessee passing attack when he went down with an injury. And this is a guy that y'all know I'm a Michigan fan. If there's somebody that I'm just rooting for, it's Brew McCoy. Obviously a rocky start, 5-star coming out of high school, rocky start to his collegiate career, just has figured it out at Tennessee. And he was really hitting his stride, goes down with the injury. If there's one guy that I'm hoping just bounces back from the injury, it's Brew McCoy. This kid could be one of the better wide receivers in the SEC.
Yeah, just so big, so physical, working those slant routes for Tennessee. He's really, really hard to deal with, can obviously get down the field and be really effective working vertically. Just, again, really what you kind of said, started to emerge as that true number one threat on a really, really good football team. And you did see what he meant to them when he was
He
down.
is largely unguardable when he's running those in-breaking routes. I mean, the ability to use his body against smaller defensive backs, like guys just can't deal with him. Almost like a cheat code, I think he can be for Tennessee. I'm fired up for this kid going into 2024. Last player we got to talk about, and I think Tennessee fans knew this one was coming, James Pierce Jr., the best pass rusher in the country heading into 2024 for the people who followed the NFL draft community. He is right now the leader in the clubhouse to be the number one overall draft pick. And Dill, I don't say that lightly, because you look at, if you have an edge rusher that can be as dominant as James Pierce can, that's so big. You go back to teams that have won national championships, have had elite defenses. They normally have that guy when it's third and long, can pin their ears back and just get after the quarterback. Tennessee certainly has that kind of guy with James Pierce.
Yep, they got that. I mean, just a perfect lab-built defensive end. Really long, lean, can push guys around, physical. He has every trait you want. Really good sense of how to rush the passer, really good arsenal of pass rush moves. They're just, again, when you're that number one pick, and you're pretty much obviously going to be that, it feels like right now, there's nothing wrong with him. It's huge to have that guy who can wreck games, stuff the stat sheet with those sacks and those big impact plays, and he's obviously as good as anyone.
And like as a player, just so many ways he can challenge tackles. Like he can challenge him athletically, attacking the outside shoulder, but he's also a guy that if you want to overset, like I'm just going to go right through you and rock you right into the quarterback slap. And when you kind of combine both of those traits, that's what you get with the special edge rusher in James Pierce. Still, that'll do it. Still think it's a
I want to shout out one more guy.
It better be Cooper Mays.
Well, Cooper Mays we already talked about. But Josh Joseph's a guy I think he's going to be a really, really good number two pass rusher for this team. And again, you like the other guys they have, Tyre West, Dominic Nichols on the other side, bigger physical defensive ends. But I really think Josh Josephs would be getting a lot more burn if James Pierce didn't exist. And James Pierce, he swallows up the attention as he should. But Josh Joseph's a guy, if you've been watching Tennessee, he's been playing in the mix since his freshman year and has played really good football. That was part of my thesis, if you will, on why I think Tennessee was heading in the right direction a couple of years ago. Nothing's changed. I just wanted to shout him out. I think he's going to have a
shout out the guy. Now, that'll do it for the boys. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas again. It's been a blast doing these. Would love to hear some feedback from you guys in the comments section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.